In Pasadena, we understand there is some damage. There's an unconfirmed report. We don't have a confirmation on it yet that a portion of the facade or the whole facade of the Pasadena Playhouse may have come down under the sidewalk. We also hear that there were 2 injuries in Pasadena. We don't know exactly the extent of those injuries or what may have caused them during the earthquake. Sometimes people suffer because of the emotional distress when an earthquake hits. They suffer heart attacks and things like that. We don't know whether that was it or somebody was hit by something falling or they were injured simply trying to scamper out of their house. That happens frequently too. We'll find out shortly and we'll let you know. But a quick recapitulation, the earthquake hit about 7:44. Caltech says about 6 on the Richter scale, centered 8 miles north of Sierra Madre in the San Gabriel Mountains. Mark.
Well, we also hear, too, in Pasadena that the lights may be out. Traffic lights at intersections are not working at this particular time in Pasadena. More information about the highways, back to the CHP and Lydia Martinez, please.
Thank you, Mark. Jean, we have received some new reports of traffic problems. It's on Soledad Canyon, right at Capra Canyon, and north of Sand Canyon, extending for several miles, about 6 or 7 miles. Several rock slides in that area, adding to the already problems out there on Sierra Highway. Between Angeles Forest and Soledad Canyon, we have reports of several rock slides out there. Good area to stay away from. Don't drive through those areas unless you absolutely have to. Also, I have received reports that the lights are out in Pasadena, like you already mentioned. That has been confirmed. So that's as a result of the earthquake also. Once again, we do want to remind you, stay away from those phone lines. That it is a real emergency because we need those lines open for emergency use. Jean, Mark, back to you.
Lydia, we are getting reports also from Pasadena police that there has been some damage. These are confirmed reports from the police department. Falling bricks along Colorado Boulevard, a broken water line reportedly causing some damage at the historic Pasadena Playhouse. They don't say anything about the facade there falling down. Yeah. We did get an earlier report of that, but they say that a water line did break at the Pasadena Playhouse, which of course is a very historic structure here in the Southland, in Pasadena particularly, and that water line did cause some damage. Power is out in Pasadena. Street lights are not working, and of course, usually when you have this situation, motorists on the streets and highways are very cooperative. I've even seen people get out and start directing traffic all on their own when these things happen, and we assume that's probably happening again this morning.
Yes, let us introduce the gentleman you see down on the bottom right of your screen, a man by the name of John Arce. Mr. Arce is here to join us to be a sign language translator for those of you who are hearing impaired, and we hope you appreciate Mr. Arce's efforts. The highway, Soledad Canyon, that's kind of the back way, if you will.
It's the old highway.
Well, actually, I think Mint Canyon is the old Highway 6 between Palmdale and the Santa Clarita area, but Soledad Canyon is one that goes along the railroad tracks.
Yes.
Remember the old Africa USA and all of that? It's kind of a fun drive, and apparently not today, though, because that's where Lydia Martinez said the landslides, rock slides had taken place.
And, of course, there's a good alternate route if you do travel that area, and that would be Highway 14, which is the freeway that took up most of the traffic from that area after 14 was built. And so if you are off in the northern areas of Los Angeles County and you normally travel, say, Soledad Canyon Road or Sierra Highway to get away from the traffic on 14, today you'll have to join them because today that highway, Soledad Canyon Road, is closed because of a rock slide. And as Lydia told you a little while ago, Sierra Highway also experienced a rock slide up in the Soledad Canyon area, and that too has been closed. So those are the 2 road closures we know about at the present time. Again, the damage mostly centered in Pasadena area, and we're hearing of bricks that have fallen off of buildings that have come down into the street. We have heard unconfirmed reports of 2 injuries. We don't know the extent of those injuries, also in Pasadena, and a lot of people shaken up by this 6.0 earthquake that struck at about 7:44 this morning.
We now have another caller on the line, a person who experienced the earthquake like you did, a man by the name of Gilbert in Huntington Park in the central area of L.A. County. Gilbert, what happened to you?
Well, I was in bed, and this quake just rattled my nerves. I just jumped out of bed, and the first thing I did was go under the desk and start praying.
Is everybody okay at your place?
Well, yes, but as I got off the bed, I kind of twisted my ankle. But I'm okay now. Just nerves, I guess. You know.
How about any damage in your house?
A small lamp that I have on top of the desk just fell down. Picked it up. Nothing big, but it was pretty strong.
You lived in Southern California a good long time, have you?
About 10 years. I'm originally from Texas.
Well, you remember 1987 and some others. You tell me what you think of this earthquake versus the others.
I think this one was about close to the same one in 81.
I think you might be exactly right.
I think it is just about right. I think the Whittier earthquake was up in the 6th area, or slightly less than that, 5.9. So we've got a twin of the Whittier quake, only this time not centered in a large area of population. If it's 8 miles north of Sierra Madre, that would be a very unpopulated area of the San Gabriel Mountains, and for that we can only thank our lucky stars. Whittier, of course, centered right in the middle of a populated area, and a lot of damage and some loss of life.
Well, I think there were five deaths or so, but one I remember in Whittier, pardon me, was up in the mountains. Up around Mount Wilson, there was a construction man who was killed
working in a tunnel. That's right.
So we worry about what may have happened up in the mountains. There are people who live there, and there are people who work there and drive through there, but so far we don't know.
Okay, we've got another report here. Sierra Madre's assistant city manager, a gentleman by the name of Sean Jock, is reporting that there are broken water and gas mains in the city of Sierra Madre. No injuries to report so far, he says, but there are broken windows and a lot of rattled nerves throughout the San Gabriel Valley as a result of this quake, which hit at 7:44 this morning, centered just north of Sierra Madre in the San Gabriel Mountains. So we are getting the reports as we predicted we would. This usually takes time to start getting the reports from the damaged areas out, and but mostly, at least so far, and these of course are very preliminary, but beginning to be confirmed, broken glass, some bricks and facades coming down off of older buildings and that sort of thing. Luckily, the only injuries we have to report so far, 2 in Pasadena, unconfirmed at this time.
Well, we do know from Caltech, estimate-wise anyway, in Caltech there are certainly world-famous earthquake experts that the estimate of the intensity, the magnitude on the Richter scale, is 6.0, and the epicenter where the earthquake fault broke the surface, is that correct, Gene?
Well, sometimes the earthquake fault can actually slip interior of the earth down many miles. I remember the Raymond Fault earthquake in '87 in Pasadena was something like 5 to 7 miles deep in the earth. But wherever it is, either on the surface or deep within the earth, there is a movement of rocks because the earth can't hold the stresses that are building up because of movement of the various plates along the surface of the earth, and they can't hold it any longer, and they slip. And when they slip, the shock waves move out, and that's what produces an earthquake.
Well, that location, at least estimated by Caltech, is 8 miles north of Sierra Madre, right in the middle of the San Gabriel Mountains. We understand we have another caller now. This is Andrea from Pico Rivera. Can you tell us what you experienced, please?
Hello?
Hello, hi, Andrea?
Uh-huh.
Yes, this is Channel 7 here. It's Gene Gleeson and Mark Coogan. Can you tell us what happened to you out in Pico Rivera?
Well, there was just shaking, and nothing fell off the walls or anything, but I still felt it. Even though it stopped, I still felt my legs and everything still moving. But it was a lot of rolling, you know. But, you know, no one mentioned Pico Rivera, and I felt bad.
Well, we certainly don't want to leave you out, although this is something I'm sure is not a mass participation sport. Is everybody all right at your house?
Yeah, everyone was fine, you know. My sister was still asleep.
What did you think? Did you think it was an earthquake right from the beginning, or?
Well, at the beginning, I didn't think. I thought it was my dad messing around, moving my bed. So then I woke up and I go, no, it's an earthquake. But I wasn't scared. It was just, you know, it felt funny. It wasn't like the Whittier one.
Now, you were close to the Whittier earthquake. Were you at home at that time?
No, I was at school.
Did you feel that?
Yes,
and
we all did.
How did this compare with that one?
This one was different. The noise and the moving was different. It kept on going like echo, and it kept on shaking. But it was all right.
It's really funny that you mentioned that because a lot of people don't associate earthquakes with noise, but most people who experience them say there is a great deal of noise, and of course the larger the quake, the louder the noise. Frequently, of course, it's because buildings are creaking and there's a rumbling because of the earth sort of shaking, and things on the earth begin to shake with them. But I've heard people in large earthquakes describe it as like a train wreck. The noise is so great. It wasn't quite that great this morning, at least here in Hollywood. It just was some creaking and some groaning and some heart pounding a little louder.
Let me tell you what a plate glass window can sound like when it's oscillating pretty good. It's very frightening.
That's right.
Pasadena, as far as we know, Pasadena may have borne the brunt of what happened today. We're going to show you an aerial picture of Pasadena taken by our chopper as we fly over Pasadena. We have understanding that 2 people were hurt in the city of Pasadena. We don't have any details on the severity or how the injuries were sustained. Traffic lights, They are apparently out in Pasadena. Lydia Martinez has reported that. There was an unconfirmed report that the Pasadena Playhouse may have lost its facade, that it may have tumbled off the building and onto the sidewalk. And I guess there was some other structural damage in Pasadena, or I don't know if structural is the word.
We got reports of a water main also at the Pasadena Playhouse that is broken. The police chief there reported that, or the police in Pasadena, and they say that is causing some damage. And that's the type of thing that you would expect from an earthquake. Of course, you can frequently tell how severe an earthquake will be or is at the time it's happening by, number one, how much stuff is coming off of walls and whether or not ceiling tiles begin to come down, how long the shaking lasts, and also, of course, by whether or not the lights go out. And it appears that, except for Pasadena and Sierra Madre and a few scattered locations nearer the epicenter, that the lights stayed on. So I think, all in all, considering a 6.0, which is a pretty strong quake, the Southland appears, and of course this is very preliminary, appears to have escaped pretty well from this one.
Well, it's early. That's the problem. I can remember how Whittier developed, and Whittier was a 5.9, and eventually we got to that big shopping center and that horrible swayback wreck of a parking lot and all the houses that suffered a lot of damage. Unfortunately, these things, as you know, take a while to develop, but it's, we can, I guess, be cautiously optimistic at this point that most of the shaking was confined to the mountains, or at least the movement was confined to the mountains.
I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but when it started shaking this morning and we were here in the studios at Eyewitness News.
Well, take a look. Now, take a look.
Yeah, there we go.
If I may interrupt.
Yeah.
That's the Playhouse, all right.
There it is, and it's not the facade in the front, but the facade in the back. And you can see where the bricks fell and actually collapsed the roof of the building behind it. Now, what that building is, I don't know, whether it's an area where they put up stages and props and things like that, move them into the Playhouse. It seems to be adjacent and attached to the Pasadena Playhouse. Let's give it one more swing around.
Yeah,
there are people out in the street, and of course you're going to have to bear with us a little bit. The signal strength from you can see more bricks that have come down off of the top of the building down into the alleyway there. So the Pasadena Playhouse does appear to have sustained some damage. And there we go. This is the area where you can see the bricks from the facade of the, more than the facade, from the wall of the Pasadena Playhouse has come down on the roof of the building that is adjacent, the lower building, and collapsed the roof. So that's the biggest bit of damage we...
Back and with more information for us. Rick.
Just a little bit of an update, at least from not only the coverage of the fire department around the Hollywood area, but also for Los Angeles as well. We were telling you about a half an hour ago that they were checking the neighborhoods, checking the hospitals, checking the homes and businesses, and that they would stand down, as they call it, or go back to the station as soon as they got the all clear. Apparently, they have not received the all clear. This was a little bit earlier, around just a little after 8 o'clock. This was shot here on the KABC studios, where they were inspecting some of the buildings here to try to find out if there was any kind of structural damage or if anything had fallen off the facades. And at this point, they also received a call along Hollywood Boulevard where they figured they might have a fire, some kind of call related to that. But we're thinking that the Tembler, if anything, triggered some alarms, and that's what they were going on. Of course, the procedure they're supposed to follow when they have an earthquake is to pull a lot of their equipment out, all of it out of the fire station, not only in case that they don't want it to get damaged, but also they want it to be able to run and be in shape to run should there be any kind of damage or for any further damage from aftershocks. And we understand that the whole process is going on not only throughout Los Angeles and Hollywood, but throughout the Southland. And the fire crews have not gotten the stand-down order yet, but they're still out, and they're still out and about and inspecting things. And as soon as we find out any kind of information, or if they do go back to the station and say all clear, we hope to be able to tell you about it.
And some of the information that determines whether they stand down or not comes from seismologists who are looking over the data right now and trying to figure out whether or not this may be a precursor, and there are such things, earthquakes that are precursors to even larger ones. This one, just to update you, hit at 7:44, measured so far at 6.0 on the Richter scale, and centered about 8 miles to the north of Sierra Madre in the San Gabriel Mountains. Let's go to Art Rascone right now, who's standing by live at Caltech, and maybe Art can fill us in on some of the details of this earthquake. Art?
All right, Gene, this is the Caltech Center here in Pasadena. This is where they register, of course, all the earthquake activity. Ms. Hutton is with me. What can you tell us about this quake?
Okay, well, it's apparently a thrust earthquake that took place below the San Gabriel Mountains at 7:43 this morning, a preliminary magnitude of 6.0. And there have been a number of aftershocks. We have a list with 2 of them above magnitude 3. Those 2 were felt, at least here.
Go ahead and point to the map here and use the map and explain where this quake centered.
It was about 8 miles north of Monrovia, Sierra Madre, so it's right up in here, about 11 kilometers or maybe 6 miles down beneath the surface of San Gabriel Mountain.
Is this a fairly active fault?
Well, at the moment we're saying it's consistent with the Sierra Madre fault, which we believe to be active because of geologic evidence, but we haven't seen too many earthquakes on it in recent years.
And I guess the last major quake to hit the LA area was, 5.1 in February?
Well, there was a 5.2 February 28th last year, the upland earthquake.
What about the future? Expecting any more aftershocks? I know that you can't predict that, but what about the possibility?
Well, every earthquake has aftershocks. Hopefully they will become less common with time and decrease in size, but we can't, there will certainly be some that can be felt over the next few days.
Okay, the 6.2 estimate, that's just a preliminary estimate. Is it possible that that will increase or decrease?
Okay, our estimate right now is 6.0, and it could change, right? It could change up or down, but probably not more than a few tenths of a point.
With the epicenter being just north of Sierra Madre, most of the damage, we understand, is in near Pasadena area as well.
I'm really not the person to ask about damage because I've just been here looking at the records and talking to the press, but we have a state rep here, Jim Gold, who I'm going to talk to him.
Ms. Hutton, thank you very much. Staff seismologist here at Caltech. So we understand that, of course, the epicenter of the quake was just north of Sierra Madre. They're continuing to register several aftershocks, with many of them being 3.0 and above that. Reporting live from Caltech, Art Rascone, Channel 7 News. Back to you.
But the theory was that it was active, and now the theory has become fact because it activated this morning. And again, as we were discussing a little while ago, not all earthquake activity is on the surface. This one 6 miles deep within the confines of the San Gabriel Mountains, and a thrust fault is, if I'm not mistaken, is the type that rides up over the top of the other. And so, but I want to get back to Kate Hutton, Dr. Kate Hutton at Caltech, and ask her some questions about that. So at least we know some of the technical explanations of this earthquake. Some of the human explanations take a little longer because people are still a little bit nervous out there, understandably so, because of the shaking that went on at 7:43 this morning when the 6.0 earthquake did strike.
Human explanations.
Yes.
Let's go for one in Long Beach. This is Elaine on the phone. Elaine, what happened to you?
Well, I was in bed, and it woke me up. So what I did is I jumped up. I'm a pretty calm person. I jumped up and ran underneath the doorway, and then I waited for a second, and then I ran underneath another doorway, and I waited for a second, and I ran underneath the kitchen doorway. My father just had his kitchen redone, so I saw the little safe in there, and I just waited. I waited till I wrote it out.
Well, Elaine, you're a very prudent person. How long did it take this to go on? How long did the earthquake go on?
To me, between 30 to 40 seconds. I mean, I waited like 5 seconds as I ran under each doorway.
How about damage in the house or anybody hurt?
No damage. There was no damage, but my father has chimes for a doorbell, and they were ringing off the wall. And the ceiling fans, he has a couple of them, and they were swaying back and forth, really something terrible. Everything was rattling, but no damage.
Did you feel the so-called mystery jolt yesterday morning?
No, that was a surprise to me to even hear about that.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see how it compared, considering the epicenter is up in the mountains and you're down at the beach, although that mystery jolt, of course, many people at the beach were reporting that they felt it yesterday. It turned out not to be an earthquake, but this morning's definitely was an earthquake, and a quite strong one at 6.0 on the Richter scale. We have, as Kate Hutton just mentioned, we have had several aftershocks, 2 so far. People that have called in and reported the aftershocks, say 8 to 8:02, they felt an aftershock, and then the second one about 8:38, and she says both were above 3 on the Richter scale, which of course is half the magnitude of the original shaker, but in the way that they measure the Richter scale, every point goes up tenfold, or is it 100?
It's tenfold per whole number.
And so 6 is many times more than 3, if you get my meaning there, in terms of the intensity of the reading. In any event, this earthquake so far has caused some damage in Pasadena, at the Pasadena Playhouse. We've seen a portion of a wall come down on top of a roof. One reported injury in Pasadena. They're reporting somebody injured there. By shattered glass, and then a woman in Reseda who was hurt when she fell down in a McDonald's restaurant. She was an employee there, fell down and hit her head. She has been hospitalized, although we have no report at all of her condition. We'll try to get that for you.
Certainly aftershocks big enough to slosh water out of a pool. That man in Burbank who told us about the first one, that was what he experienced. We're going to check on the highways again right now, and we'll go to Lydia Martinez for that. Lydia, please.
Thank you, Mark. Well, the major problems that we're finding at this time is rock slides in the Antelope Valley area on the 14 on Sierra Highway. We are receiving reports right now from Long Beach. They did close the Gerald Desmond Bridge to check for damage that has been reopened. Apparently that bridge was unaffected by the earthquake. Once again, there was lots of rock slides in the area. However, Sierra Highway is open, I think, one lane, down to one lane, but only use that highway if you need to get through, if it's an emergency. Other than that, try and stay away from that area because the traffic flow is diminished. Once again, lots of rock slides. That's the only kind of damage that we're finding at this time, so that is some good news for the freeways and the highway system.
Sierra Highway is the old two-lane road, is that right? Not the Antelope Valley Freeway.
That's correct. Sierra Highway is a two-lane road.
But 14 is the freeway, and so you're getting some rock slides up there?
Yes, we are getting reports of some rock sliding onto the 14. However, it is passable. It's not closed down. It's just some reports of rocks on the freeway. Our units are out there along with LA County roads trying to clear that up for you.
Okay, presumably, considering where this earthquake is centered, I would imagine there probably are some rock slides up on the Angeles Crest Highway, although perhaps your officers haven't gotten there yet.
That's correct. We are receiving calls of rock slides in all of that area, Angeles Crest, and like you said, that's so close to the epicenter that's where a lot of the damage is going to be. Luckily, so far, no major damage, no injuries, just reports of rock slides throughout that area.
Yeah. Refresh my memory, if you will. Soledad Canyon Road, is that closed or just tough?
At this time, it looks like it is open. However, because of the rock slides, it is probably down to maybe only one lane right now. So stay away from that area unless you absolutely have to get through.
And Gerald Desmond Bridge, that's the bridge between San Pedro and Long Beach. Is that open again now?
Yeah, it was closed for a time while they did some damage assessment. It has now been reopened, so that was unaffected by the earthquake.
Okay, Lydia, thank you very much. We might point out that this is Lydia's last day with us as our traffic reporter. She's going back out in the field. You did it you had a good day to leave, Lydia.
Kind of an exciting morning, yes.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for that report. We'll get back to you in a little bit.
Some send-off.
Yeah.
Elaine Long is up with us next. Elaine has been in Anaheim and Orange County during the morning, checking things for us, and let's go back to Elaine right now.
All right, Mark and Jean. Actually, people's nerves have sort of calmed down here. Initially, when the earthquake first hit, everybody was the people who were out, construction workers. Some of them were up on ladders, and they thought at first it was their fellow construction people up on the roof, but that turned out they realized that it was an earthquake. So they've got down off their ladders and they've sort of calmed down. This is sort of an industrial park that we're in, and so a couple of businesses thought that it was heavy machinery that was making the movement and the noise, and of course they found out that it too was an earthquake. And over here is a private school, and there were a number of children out front who, a lot of them actually didn't even feel the earthquake. Now, we were inside a building, which is actually a house that was built in 1910 right behind me, and we're ready to do an interview. And when the earthquake struck, and my photographer was able to power up the camera, and I believe we have some videotape that we shipped back. This is the room we were in, and I think you can see, well, it's a little difficult to see what was happening, but the plants were moving, and Bobby zoomed in, and you can see the children there running to the middle of the lawn. And when they do that whenever there's an earthquake, and they sort of duck, they're trained to do something like that. But the pictures on the walls were moving, and because this was built in 1910, the building sort of swayed, and it seemed to go on forever. And we actually thought at the time it was a more significant hit down in Orange County, but as we have since heard, that is north of Sierra Madre. So outside, however, the people didn't feel it quite as much, and as I said, a lot of people didn't feel it at all. So I think it was a little more significant inside. That's pretty much what's happening here. It's business as usual, sort of exciting about an hour ago, but everybody's back to business. I'm Elaine Long, reporting live.
Okay, Elaine, thank you very much. And unfortunately, we can report now that apparently we didn't all escape from this earthquake. There is a report of one person who was killed in the quake, confirmed by a hospital spokesman, says a track handler at Santa Anita Racetrack was in a building and a steel beam came down and crushed her during the quake. The woman pronounced dead on arrival at Arcadia Methodist Hospital. So now we have had reports of 2 injuries, one in Pasadena, one in Reseda, and now the first fatality from the 6.0 earthquake that hit at 7:43 this morning. So the earthquake just got a little bit more serious.
Well, it did take a tragic turn, and Santa Anita, that's right up by Sierra Madre.
Mm-hmm.
The epicenter of the earthquake, to recapitulate real quickly, was 8 miles north of Sierra Madre in the San Gabriel Mountains. The estimated magnitude from Caltech was 6.0. We have another report now coming in on the phone from a resident in Anaheim. Chency is her name. Please, what happened to you?
Well, I was sleeping in and my bed was shaking and I started screaming for my husband and he said, I'm here under the doorway, and I ran out and the chandeliers were just moving in the dining room and the kitchen, and I thought it was a long time, longer than the last one, but to me it wasn't as strong, but it was long. So that's, nothing really fell, but it was really long and scary.
Did you jump under something, or did you just ride it out?
No, I just went and grabbed the pillow because I was laying in bed, and I grabbed the pillow and started screaming for my husband, and because the last one scared me to death. And anyway, that was the gist of my experience here. It's scary. I was shaking for a long time.
Yeah, not something you get used to, certainly. I would imagine that you've been through them before, and is it something that you get used to? It doesn't sound like it.
Well, you kind of get used to it a little bit, but every time, like you say, you think, this is going to be the big one? I hope not. And so, but this morning it was long. It really scared me. Yeah. So anyway.
All right. I trust you guys are all right.
Yes, thank God.
Well, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. I would expect that that's a common reaction. People experience these things, and it's amazing because people out here in California, a lot of people who've moved out here say, I'm getting out of California because I just can't take an earthquake, and they move back to the Midwest where tornadoes are a constant threat. But earthquakes, when they do hit, and of course they're not all that common, but when they do hit, they have an air of terror to them, and there's no getting away from it.
Utterly no warning. Even a tornado, sometimes you get an alert. But,
yeah, you know when it's coming.
Not
in this
like
case,
this.
not an earthquake.
Gene, let's go back to Pasadena for a bit and show some of the damage that our helicopter was able to record. And here you see the Pasadena Playhouse in downtown Pasadena. Notice on one of the back walls here, a lot of the masonry tumbled off and crashed onto the roof of a warehouse or factory that was immediately adjacent and collapsed the roof. Now, we've had, Gene, what, one for sure? I remember earlier they were saying 2 reports of injuries in Pasadena. We don't know the severity or exactly where they happened, but perhaps one of the injuries was sustained here.
Yeah, it could have been, and you can see that this building, whatever it is, adjacent to the Pasadena Playhouse, and it looks like it's attached, actually. It could have been a lower building that they did, you know, built sets and things like that in and then moved them on into the Playhouse itself. Whatever it was, that roof came down, and if someone happened to be under it at the time, there could have been an injury there, but we don't know. We do know, confirmed, 1 injured by shattering glass in Pasadena, and another woman injured in a McDonald's restaurant in Reseda who fell down and hit her head during the earthquake, and she was hospitalized. We don't know the condition. And as we reported just a little while ago, 1 fatality confirmed so far. A woman who was a track handler at Santa Anita Racetrack hit by a steel beam when it came down on her at the track, which indicates there was some damage at Santa Anita Racetrack. We don't know how extensive that is so far, but she was pronounced dead on arrival at Arcadia Methodist Hospital, and that's the extent of injuries and deaths so far in this earthquake, which was 6.0 on the Richter scale and centered 8 miles to the north of the city of Sierra Madre, which of course is just in the foothills itself and just north of Pasadena. We're getting more information in, and we're just digesting this as we do. As the helicopter flies over some of the areas of Pasadena, you see an area there on Colorado Boulevard, some of the financial buildings in the financial district of Pasadena, and in that area there were reports that some of the buildings sustained shattered glass, and the glass, of course, falling down onto the street. That could have been where one of the injuries in Pasadena did take place. The police chief in Sierra Madre says that he has reports of a few minor injuries in his community and reports of structural damage. Chief I.E. Betts adds that the department has been besieged with telephone calls, and we might once again pass along from Pacific Bell their plea that once the shaking stops, that you refrain from making phone calls. We know that's an important priority on your list, to get home to find out how things fared during the earthquake, but what it's doing is tying up the phones, and when that happens, emergency calls are more difficult to get through, and it's important that the emergency agencies that are dealing with this earthquake be able to get through on the phone in addition to the radios that they use. Mark?
Well, we know that the damage and injuries and apparently the death were all towards the mountains, towards the epicenter of the earthquake. But obviously the earthquake was felt all over the place, from the Colorado River, Blythe, to Santa Barbara. Nearer in, of course, is Gardena in southern Los Angeles County. And on the phone with us now is a lady by the name of Victoria from Gardena. And what happened to you, ma'am?
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, we were in the back house. My mom has 2 homes, and I just came from Saudi Arabia. And so we kind of left the war there, and now we came here, and my children and I, we were sitting down, and all of a sudden the room just started shaking. And then so I picked my infant up, and we went under the door, and we waited, and my son was really scared. He tried to get out of the sliding glass door, and he kind of hurt his ankle just by jumping out. But now we're all okay, and it was just coming from there and coming here and feeling earthquakes was, I don't know what's more scary, to tell you the truth.
Well, it certainly was a frightening homecoming. Victoria, you said some things were shaken up, and maybe there was a twisted ankle, but I take it everybody's okay.
Yeah, everyone's fine, thank you. Just, we were trying to get out of the door too quick, I think, and he just kind of stumbled over, because we just had this room built, so there's still kind of a little construction going on, but nothing really fell and broke. It was just we felt the shaking.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That is quite a homecoming, I must say, coming back from the Persian Gulf, and then you come to California where you think everything's quiet, and boom, you hit an earthquake. Lydia Martinez has more for us now at the Highway Patrol. She's been reporting on all the road closures due to rock slides, most of them up in the mountain areas. Let's find out how things are going now. Lydia?
Thank you, Gene. That's correct. And what DOT is doing is they are using snow plows. They have 2 snow plows out on those highways. They're trying to push the rocks off the roadway so they will be open for traffic. And actually our CHP helicopters advise that the flow of traffic is very light. Maybe a lot of people stayed home this morning because of the earthquake, so that is some good news out there. And they are trying to clear the highways for you at this time, like I said, once again using those snow plows to get the rocks off the highway.
Hey, Lydia, thank you very much from that. I think, if you're at home before you go to work and this thing hits, it's a good reason not to go to work, I guess, although I'm sure most employers are saying, come on into work, we need you. We have been showing the video of the Pasadena Playhouse and the damage from the portion of the brick wall that came off of the back of the Pasadena Playhouse down onto a lower structure, collapsing the roof. And we now know that that is a parking structure that is right next door to the Pasadena Playhouse. And a portion of that roof, as you could see in the pictures, if you can remember back just a few minutes when we showed them, did collapse. Now, we don't know if there were any injuries down there at that particular location or not, and we'll find out. Ironic, maybe to some extent, because if you'll remember, one of the fatalities in the 1987 Whittier quake was a young student who was just coming out of a parking structure at Los Angeles State University and was hit by a portion of the facade of that parking structure and crushed underneath, one of the 5 or so fatalities in the Whittier quake. So a parking structure, portion of the roof of that parking structure at Pasadena Playhouse did collapse.
Looks like we might be able to go live to the Pasadena Playhouse right now. We talked to Linda Moore earlier from her house. Her house was pretty much trashed in the earthquake, and now Linda has gone out to the field, and she's in Pasadena right now. Linda, what can you tell us?
Well, Gene, I have literally just arrived this second and driving down through Pasadena. This is clearly the hardest hit area here. All over town there is broken glass. People standing around. Obviously, nerves are still shaken. I certainly am feeling it myself here. And this is one of the worst amounts of damage here in the Pasadena Playhouse, which is, of course, a landmark. The Pasadena Playhouse has been here since the early 1900s. On a personal note, my mother called this morning. She graduated from the Pasadena Playhouse in 1939, wondered how it was. I said, I don't know yet. I'm heading down. This is not going to be good news for anybody who ever attended the college here, and obviously for the many millions of people who have seen the theater here. Now, inside, there is an awful lot of damage as well. All of this is all being assessed at this moment. People are going through very carefully, walking around the interiors of this theater here, this complex here, also throughout the buildings all over Pasadena as well. Now, not only is the Pasadena Playhouse suffered substantial damage, but also the Bank of America building, which is just a few blocks away. We have some pictures of that if we can show that to you. On the 8th floor, this is an example of just what happened. This is just a few blocks from where I am here on the Pasadena Playhouse, downtown Pasadena. This is the B of A building, the 8th floor. You can see that computers are on the floor, chairs are tossed about, glass was broken, very severe damage throughout the area. Right now we are assessing not only the damage but also the injuries from people who might have been hit by the falling debris. People right now just standing around the area, kind of getting to be just a little bit giddy right now. Everybody's talking about what it was like, what they felt. Where were you? You want to share with us? Were you here in downtown Pasadena?
No, luckily I live in Glendale, right on top of a big rock. It was a very minor thing for us, but my bank building doesn't have much glass left in it.
Were you here in Pasadena?
I was about 3 miles east when it hit, yeah.
Okay, all right. Was anybody here in Pasadena who wants to share this? Were you here downtown? Was this probably the hardest earthquake you've ever felt?
Well, it seemed like it was a harder jolt than the Whittier quake, about 2 years ago. It was, I was about 3 blocks north of here in a basement of the phone company building at 177, and we were all scared to death.
What about your place of business? Any damage there?
Right here. This building right across the street here. And a lot of cracks, a lot of the superficial outside here is cracked and fallen and such, you know. But other than that, everything looks okay.
It's kind of a double whammy here because not only is this near the epicenter, but many of these buildings in Pasadena are very old, similar to buildings that were built perhaps in San Francisco.
Yes.
Same era when these buildings came up in the early 1900s. Right. So many of these are not built at the same standards that we build the buildings today, so that's why we're starting to see it. And like the place where you work as well, it looks like an older building also.
Yes, it is very old, and we were very concerned about it, but it seems to have held up very well.
Okay, and once again, if you want to take a look at the Pasadena Playhouse, I'm not sure exactly the year it was built, but once again, I know the Playhouse has been here since the early 1900s, and you can see it's an old building. It has been renovated. It is still an operating theater. People still go to the theater there. But still much of the facade was built many years ago, and you can see all the bricks. You can see the facade coming down, and inside there's much more damage as well. We're going to be taking a look inside and checking more of this area out for you, and we'll have more pictures for you coming up in just a bit.
Can I ask you, you drove in, what's the traffic lights, that sort of thing in Pasadena? Are the traffic lights out?
The traffic lights are out. Most of the power is out as well. In fact, driving into the tunnels here in the freeway, the lights are out. It's really a rather dangerous situation right now, but people are obviously aware of what's going on and then trying to be understanding of the conditions right now.
Linda, thank you very much. We understand that down the street from where Linda was on Colorado Boulevard, the facade of a 4-story apartment building fell, and some of it went out onto Colorado Boulevard, and the police have roped off the building right now. But there are no reports here of people hurt at that location.
Yeah, and it's interesting to look at the Pasadena Playhouse because there is what looks like a newer concrete block wall behind the older brick wall that did come down. Now, we don't know whether that's part of an upgrade program for earthquake safety or not. Presumably it was, that they basically built a wall inside of the older wall.
You said the music side is damaged?
Only God's way.
I thank God nothing else happened.
Yeah.
Just panic, can't find it.
Hey, John, have you a copy? We're going to go get fuel.